Before I go off on celebrating Vegas Golden Knights' 2-1 win in overtime against the Minnesota Wild, I want to have a few different things that we're talking about because obviously there's a lot of tension in the room right now. I'm literally by myself in this room. First of all, the NHL has a serious problem when they're always, most of the other fans in the league attack Vegas fans for not knowing hockey because they're new to it. I've been watching for over 20 years, casually for the first half of that, for sure. 2009 started me into this downward spiral, and have I watched more since Vegas has been in the league? Absolutely. How hard do you think this sport is? It's not like I'm 0 to 7 years old. It's like you took an 18-year-old and put them through a college degree program and then a master's program, and they've learned about this subject material. Spearing, one of the most infrequent penalties it's called in the league because it doesn't happen a lot. That did not look like any of the other spears that have really happened since Vegas has entered the league. So excuse me for not thinking that that's necessarily a spear. I know the rule, I know that they go together, and that is not what I would associate with that rule. Did Jack Eichel deserve a penalty? Absolutely, sure. Did the Minnesota get shafted several times because the refs didn't call things on Vegas, including a high sticking with less than a minute to go? Yeah, 100%. Were there missed calls both ways? Yes. Were there more towards Minnesota? Yes. I will admit that because it's true. It's objectively true. Is that Vegas's fault? No. Is that the referee's fault? Yeah. Is that the NHL rigging it for Vegas? In tonight's game? Sure. In general? No. Vegas gets shafted on calls all the time, including Jack Eichel getting booted from that game for that. Like, you can look in any of the videos on this exact thing that happened, and most of the fan bases around the league, that even the ones that hate Vegas, are saying that that was a really soft call. Even if the rules go together, I get it, but should that be classified as that? Probably not. I can admit that that's not an objective take, and you don't have to agree with me, but that's my take. And I'm trying to be level-headed about it, but it's really hard when the only things that are getting screamed at me is that I'm new to hockey, that I don't know anything, that Vegas is just always getting these blessed calls, even though they got a 5-minute major and lost their best forward in this it baffles me. But other take, since we already know the outcome of this game, if the Minnesota Wild do not pull their goalie, Gustafsson, in overtime and just take it to the shootout, they probably win this game. Not that it matters because that didn't happen, so oh well. If Minnesota scores there, if they win in overtime, they only gain 1 point. Whereas if they lose 2 points on Vegas. I don't think that math is mathin'. Like, I know it's the end of the season and you need every single point, but that drastic of a difference for Vegas, not worth it in my opinion. But hey, Jonathan Marchessault scores his 40th of the year and the probably farthest overtime goal in a decade and a half. On the major, the Minnesota Wild get their only goal from Kaprizov, who grade A Oscar to. Like, yes, getting speared into the midsection where there's little-ish padding definitely hurts, definitely. Enough to flop your neck back? Probably not. That doesn't physics add up unless you're selling it. I'm not trying to trigger any Wild fans, but Jack Eichel uses a 95 flex. This here is an 85 flex from when I play because I'm not as strong on the stick as Jack Eichel is. But if I take this and I go into my shoulder enough to get it to flex the way that it does, like, yes, I don't know how to replicate this without asking my wife to come and spear me, which is not necessarily something I want to do. Getting hit here does not cause my neck to go back. If I'm going towards it and I get hit here, it's not going to cause that kind of a reaction. So either way you look at it, was Kaprizov actually reacting to it? Probably a little bit. Was he embellishing? Probably. Plus, Jack Eichel skating towards Kaprizov. Kaprizov skates into it too. Yes, Eichel needs to have control of his stick, but like, Kaprizov didn't really make an effort to get out of the way either. So I think he was fine taking the call as well. Gustafsson did phenomenal. He definitely, hats off to him for a really fabulous performance. And he was doing his best to will this team into the playoffs. Kind of like Logan Thompson, who on the other end of the ice was just as fantastic. Like I said, the one goal he allowed was to Kirill Kaprizov on the major penalty. That was the only one. Vegas's penalty kill did a phenomenal job. That was a one zone entry lapse in their defensive mindset. And that was the only Minnesota goal that happened. Logan Thompson, phenomenal job. MVP of this game. He had a lot of physicality happen to him tonight, and some of it was his own doing. He got ran into a couple of times, and I will say Petro does shove Hartman. Hartman made no effort to get out of the way, and even if Petro shoved him a little bit, Hartman is strong enough on his skates to at least have tried to make an effort. I still think he would have ran into Thompson either way. I think his plan was maybe to jump over him, but that's worse because skate up high, huh? I genuinely don't know. Like, snow showering him, that's also not allowed, so I don't know what his plan was. His trajectory and the physics of skating and stuff, like, it would have happened either way. There were a couple of other times that he got shoved into the net too. He had a lot of physicality that Logan Thompson was battling tonight, and he took a couple of shots off the dome, and some of it was him leaning into it too, but like, that can't feel good, taking a 90-mile-an-hour puck made of rubber shot at your head, and you're going into, like, that should not feel like. He played phenomenally, so I think he's fine, but like, hope he gets some really good rest, because that's a lot. I've played goalie in a like college class, and it is absolutely draining. The amount of endurance that these guys have, phenomenal. I love goalies, and on top of just being exhausted from playing a full 60 minutes, I can't imagine that the physicality aspect of it too just was a lot. Hopefully he's fine and didn't overwork himself. But hey, this road trip, 7 of 8 points. The Vegas Golden Knights, phenomenal job. Their last 10 is looking great. They're doing a great job to close out the season, and we are not even at full power because Tomas Hertl, according to, I think it was Cassidy or McCrimmon in a podcast with Dan Duva, the voice of the Vegas Golden Knight radio network, had said that they're anticipating him to play the last 5-6 games of the regular season, which would paint his return at the second week of April in 2 weeks, a week and a half, which is great news because A, detracting from the LTIR conversation, which load off my mind, even though it's perfectly legal. 2, it'll be good for him to acclimate himself to the system. We don't know if he's going to be even center or wing yet. And getting him to play real life hockey games for the first time in months before heading into the playoffs when hockey is a lot more is just a really good idea in general. Minnesota Wild get 0 points because they pulled the goalie in overtime. We don't know what spearing is. How many of you learned that rule for the first time a couple of weeks ago? Because I didn't. Jonathan Marchessault, the first time he's ever scored 40 in a single year, and the second Golden Knight ever to score 40 in a single season. The first being William Karlsson in the inaugural year. He needs 3 more to tie him, 4 more to pass him with 8 games left in the schedule. That's half a goal pace, which is a lot, but he's on pace. Petro rejoined the lineup. Martinez did too. White Cloud was out. Honestly, Minnesota outplayed us for most of the game. I didn't even talk about the other goal. Michael Amadio off of a beautiful drop feed from Stevenson that was perfectly placed for Amadio to wire this thing past Gustafsson. The only way we were able to beat him tonight. Fantastic pass from Stevenson, off of a break, off of a fantastic stretch pass from Martinez, and just a beautiful shot from Amadio. It was picture perfect to force the game into overtime to begin with. I'm done. That's gonna be it for Game 74's Nightly Review. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.